Hello, everyone. Juxtaposition here. This is our Saturday night Star Chamber investigations, and we've got a real doozy tonight. This is the Stupid Bowl weekend. Tomorrow is the Super Bowl. That will be February 8th, 2026. You were wondering, those numbers add up to 20. 20 is a 9/11. 9/11. 9/11. So we're going to cover for a little hijinks the Super Bowl to start, but we're going to pivot pretty quickly into oaths, not oaths of obedience, but oaths of secrecy, national secrecy, secrecy of intelligence, proprietary secrecies of licensing and patents, and weapon research, advanced weapon research for DARPA and the RAND Corporation. We're going to get into, do you need a security clearance to work in a bioweapons laboratory? Yes, you do. Yes, you have to have security clearance. And if you violate your oath, your sworn oath of obedience on secrecy, you will be arrested and interrogated and disenfranchised, terminated from your job, and prosecuted, and may spend years incarcerated, or you may just have a heart attack. Who knows? All right. So to kick off the show, we're going to say this is Super Bowl number 60 tomorrow on Sunday, February 28th, 2026. It's Super Bowl number 60. That's 60. So that's a 33, right? 33. The highest level of the Masonic order is tomorrow's football game. And it's going to have a lot of woke messages to pay attention to. We're not concerned with woke messaging here on this show. We are concerned about the number on the jerseys for the quarterbacks, because one of the quarterbacks is going to win. It's going to be on the winning team. And then when they say, hey, what do you think, Sam Darnold? He's going to say, I'm going to Disneyland, because you get paid to say that. So that could happen tomorrow. But Sam Darnold, he plays for the Seattle Seahawks, and his number is 3. And the New England Patriots out of the Boston area, their quarterback is a new young up and comer playing terrifically, Drake May, and his number on his jersey is 10. So alone, it's a 3 and a 10. But if you add them together, you get 13. So the quarterback's set up to 13. All right. Levi Stadium is where they're playing. Now, the media will tell you it's in San Francisco, and San Francisco is going to host Super Bowl 60. Incorrect. No, they're not. The Super Bowl will be played at Levi Stadium. It is located at 4900 Marie P. DeBartolo Way, named after Eddie DeBartolo, who formerly was the owner of the 49ers back when Joe Montana was quarterback, and Steve Young, who was a Mormon from Utah, from Salt Lake City. 4900 is, everybody on cue, 13. Marie P. DeBartolo Way. Super Bowl number 60, 33, played on February 8th, 2026, which is a 9/11 day. It's 20, adds up to 20. It's 9/11 day. Anyway, so that's kind of the extent of my discussion here. Just to let you know that the stadium is 46 miles south of San Francisco from the Presidio. And technically, I took the distance from the east gate of the Presidio Army Base, where Letterman Hospital is. Today, it's called the Lucas Digital Arts Building. And the distance from Lyons Street and Lombard Street, that intersection, is 46 miles to the Super Bowl game tomorrow. 46 miles. So in case you're wondering, San Francisco is located in San Francisco, and it's located in San Francisco County. The Super Bowl is being played in Mountain View, which is a city, and in the county of Santa Clara. It is next door to NVIDIA, which is a matrix metaverse artificial intelligence simulation gaming company. It is also next door to Moffett Air Base, which is a multiple NATO force space. The Navy uses it. The Army uses it. They have a psychological unit. They ran Operation Sea Spray, where they dumped toxic chemicals out of Moffett Air Base back in 1952. They're running toxic waste dumping. I'm pretty sure they're doing that today in 2026. That's where the Cray supercomputer is located. Google is the general manager of Moffett, and they have a fleet of planes. They fly to Davos out of there, and Stanford University is close by, up the road in Palo Alto, which is the next city north of Mountain View. This is the area where Erin Valente spent a lot of time before she was murdered. This is the general, more or less, the general area near Sand Hill Road, which is in San Mateo County, but on the line of the Santa Clara County line. So Erin was sort of both places. He was in both counties. And all right, now I'm going to pivot to my videos that I posted recently regarding a historical event concerning Chancellor Thomas Wolsey, who was also a Catholic cardinal of the Vatican City. He was a cardinal, and he was the chancellor of for Henry VIII. And we had this problem in 1533, 1534 with finding an heir for the throne. And King Henry's first wife died. He married his brother's wife, had to get a special dispensation from the Pope in the Vatican City for that. He received one. He married Catherine, who's from Spain. Her purpose is to keep peace with Spain, but she couldn't get pregnant. So this became a very stressful problem for the monarchy. So King Henry leaned hard on his chancellor, who's really in charge of the ethics of the United Kingdom, of the British Empire. He's really in charge of law and order. He's the chief. He's like the attorney general, but also with ethical standards for the whole realm. And Wolsey was not able to get the Pope to agree to essentially a dispensation on the dispensation that he already, to void out what he already gave permission. So King Henry stripped Wolsey of all of his properties and confined him to smaller property and denied him health care, and he died. But before he died, he did name Thomas More as his recommendation for his replacement. And King Henry VIII honored that and took on Sir Thomas More. But the problem remained, is that the king needs an heir, and he needs to find a woman to give him a son. That's what he needs. And he found Anne Boleyn, who's younger and perhaps more fertile. So now the question is, how can I do this without, with staying within the boundaries of the Catholic Church? And the answer is you can't. You really can't stay within the rules. They're just too strict. Leaned hard on Thomas More, and Thomas could not solve the problem either. So then King Henry thought of the idea, well, I'll just create my own church. Right? It's kind of what we do with the Church of Scientology, Fountain of the World Church, Hare Krishnas. What else we got? Rainbow Colony, Children of God. There's like no shortages. Just start your own church. Heaven's Gate with Doe. Remember Doe? So anyway, we have this new church, the Church of England. All right. So then this puts Thomas More in kind of a bind because he's Catholic. And oh man, so we got another church. And then the Pope is fuming mad. And it's more than just starting your own church, because he's going to steal all of the property that belongs to the Vatican. Is going to be nationalized under the Church of England. So it's not just that we're not going and stealing your collections basket. That's not the problem. The problem is we're taking thousands of acres of land away from you. And it could be ranching land that's generating money because you're running farm and ranching, and you're going to confiscate all that under the guise that you're now Church of England franchise. So anyway, needless to say, this was very controversial, and Thomas More was in a pickle, and then came up with this: we will all take an oath. We will take an oath to the king that he is both the king and he's the head of the Church of England, and he's the righteous man or master of all the real estate. And everyone signed who wanted to stay, in the good favor of the king, right? It's like COVID, right? You want to get along by going along, get along by going along, and be cooperative. I'm cooperating. So they signed hundreds of names to that. All the people who wanted to be knighted or get a good job, high paying job, they signed the oath. But Thomas More did not. He refused to sign the oath. Will you sign the oath? I will not. And I will not tell you why I will not. I will not sign the oath, and I will not tell you why I will not sign the oath. So then this is construed as, so you rebuke the king's title. You rebuke it. No, I didn't rebuke it. I remain silent. And if you follow the law, according to the Latin interpretation, silence means consent, means agreement. So if you are a lawful society, you must construe that my silence means I consent to the king's title. I recognize the king's title. Just sign the oath. I will not sign the oath. Okay, well, fast forward, he was beheaded, and the beheading was, prosecution was led by another Thomas, a third Thomas. We have Thomas Wolsey, replaced by Thomas More, who then is prosecuted by Thomas Cromwell, whose father was a butcher. Then Thomas Cromwell has he suborns perjury with an underling who makes up a lie that Thomas More rebuked the title of King Henry VIII, which was untrue. And on that basis, he was convicted of treason, and treason is a capital punishment by beheading. So they chopped off Thomas More's head on July 6th, 1535, and that is a number 13 date. It's like the Super Bowl, right? 13, 13. So off with his head, and then his replacement was the prosecutor who chopped his head off, Thomas Cromwell, who then became he wasn't called Chancellor, though. They just call him the High. He's not as educated as Wolsey, and he is not as urbane a gentleman as Thomas More. I mean, Wolsey was a cardinal in the Vatican, crying out loud. So he's really the highest ranking person was Wolsey, but the most urbane and book writing and a poet was Thomas More. So clearly he's the greatest gentleman of the three Thomases, but he's now been beheaded. And so that leaves Cromwell, who's the son of a butcher and is kind of a rube, and no one really likes him. So he gets the job, but not the title. He gets the job, but not the title. And then he is left with, by the way, you got to find me a woman to have a baby, because Anne Boleyn did not get pregnant with a son. She got pregnant with a daughter. And he goes, I can't use a daughter. I need a son. And so she got beheaded because they made up a story. It's like kind of like Marie Antoinette, that she was having an affair with her brother or something like that. Marie Antoinette guessed that she was having incest with her son. Not true. And then they beheaded those women. So like whatever they did to Marie Antoinette, they did that to Anne Boleyn too. And so they lie. And they did it to Thomas More. They lied. They lied about him too. So then Cromwell couldn't find a woman. So he gets his head chopped off too. So you got three Thomases. The king loses patience with all three. The first one dies before he gets beheaded. He was being accused of a felony crime also, but he died before he could go on trial. And then the other two go on trial and are found guilty and are beheaded at the Tower of London, on the Tower Hill, outside the Tower of London, which is very close to, remember, where the Jack the Ripper murders were. It's not exactly where they were, but it's not far. We could walk from the Tower Bridge over to the Canary Wharf. It's walking distance, and you could go visit and take a tour of the Jack the Ripper murders. And there were five of those. All right. So Let me go around the room here. We just have Shirley and Jennifer tonight in the Star Chamber, but these are some of the brightest bulbs within the Star Chamber. And I want to know, what are you thinking about this idea? Does this Thomas More predicament, where the majority of people who he's associated with have signed an oath recognizing the king's right to marry and divorce women until he gets a son, and then confiscate all the property that belongs to the Catholic Church. Does this sound kind of sort of like COVID? Like, we all need to get vaccinated, right? We all need to social distance. We need to wear a mask. Um, no one is safe until everyone is safe, right? Because see, when they chopped off Thomas More's head, and he was the only one that didn't comply. So now we have 100% compliance. Instead of like reasoning with him and trying to solve the problem, or just accept the fact that he's not going to sign the oath, and he's not making things muddy. He's not going around saying that it's a crime. He's silent. But instead of doing that, you have to kill the guy so that you can brag that 100% of the people agree with COVID. 100%, not 99, 100. Did you see some similarities today in 2020, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25 with real ID verified COVID, COVID vaccines, bird flu, monkeypox, annual flu shot? Now they have an annual COVID shot. They've turned it into annual ritual COVID for annual boosters. What do you say, Jennifer?
Well, Sir Thomas More is just a mythical man of history in terms of a man who stood for his conscience and would not budge. And to me, it's a reminder, and Henry VIII is sort of a buffoon of history. But at the time, Henry VIII had the power and Thomas More was the martyr. To me, it's a reminder of how few and far between people of conscience really are, and how easily people will conform for expediency and comfort. So that's, to me, the similarity with today and complying with real ID and vaccinations and so forth. Just there is one scene in one of the clips that you had in which one of the men is just pleading with Thomas More, oh, just sign the thing. Come on, we've all signed it. Just sign it. It'd be so easy. Just sign it and get it over with.
For fellowship.
Yeah, for fellowship, that's right. And Thomas More says no. And it's, he was willing to give his life for principle and for his beliefs. And I think he knew that if he gave up on his beliefs, then there'd be nothing to him. He'd be a hollow man. And so that's the challenge that I think has been in existence for generations and hundreds of years, how few people will do and stand by the right thing, or how few people really are a man of conviction or a woman of conviction. And back then it was about the king's power to get divorces, and now it's about the state's power to enforce medical compliance and identification, surveillance, apparatus, or so forth. But it's the same idea: the power of the state versus the conscience of the individual.
What do you say, Shirley?
I think that's a good comparison. And thing is, when you think of COVID and what we did with the masks and the ridiculousness of it, have we learned anything? I don't know. I had conversations with people, and going back in time, you can see how that was just political and how they just kept turning. And one person was saying, no, I'm not going to comply. And you're right, here we are now saying, did anybody ask me? And a lot of people are like, okay, let's comply. Do they really understand what's happening?
No.
And
But they don't seem to be concerned about being killed. because that's what's going to happen. I mean, when we say surveillance, that means keeping track of all your cows so you can turn your cow into money in the processing slaughterhouse. I mean, what do you think you do with a cow? Bring it in at Christmas parties and say, oh, it's my pretty cow. No, you
Oh, right.
milk it and then you kill it. It's like
Yeah.
people don't seem to think that they're farm animals. They're not
Right.
pets. They're not
Right.
pets.
They
They're not.
think they're on a hill eating grass. I mean, if you drive cross country, I've done that where you can smell some of these places before you reach them. They're
Oh,
not,
right. The
it's
Harris
not
Ranch.
Bessie on, yes, you can smell them and they're
The
all
feedlot. Oh, so
bunched
bad.
together in mud and stuff. So
Just
it's
before they're killed, they're bunched up.
yeah, I've
It's
watched some of those videos where they kill them and stuff. I've forced myself to watch some stuff, but
yeah. Well, the Harris
it's
Ranch is. I've done the bicycle race out there. It's on Highway 33. Highway 33, and the Harris Ranch is where the finishing line is, right past the ranch, and usually the wind is blowing west to east, so I don't, and the ranch is on the east, so I don't smell it. But when the wind dies down, holy crap, almost knocks you off your bicycle. Whoa. And the ranch is not small. It's over a mile long. And the cows are, can you imagine how many cows that is to be packed tightly for a whole
yeah,
mile? I mean, it's like 250,000 cows,
yeah,
on top of each other, but they're all going to be dead in the next week. They're going to kill, I don't know how long it takes to kill 250,000 cows, but they're going to process them as fast as they can, 24 hours a day, night and day. They kill those cows. And meanwhile, they're eating growth hormones and genetically modified corn seed from, Monsanto corn seeds. That's who, and then they're pouring hundreds of thousands of gallons of bromo seltzer into the water because see, the cows can't hold down corn. Cows eat grass. They're not supposed to eat corn, but the farmer wants to feed them the corn because it's sugar, it's glucose, and then you add the insulin or the growth hormone. You can fatten up the cow in the last couple of weeks before you're going to kill it. That's going to increase your profits like 10-15%. This is the pharmaceutical partnership with the rancher to sell growth hormones and bromo seltzer or anti-acid. That's the number one purchaser of anti-acid, and the number one purchaser of growth hormones for the pharmaceutical industry is the farming and ranching customers. They buy more than anyone, more than the athletes, because there's way more cows than there are athletes. So cows and other animals, pigs, and I don't know who else gets the stuff, but anyway, yeah, it's brutal, and it's pretty much out of view, so people don't. It's in an
I
area,
guess
there's no houses, so nobody lives there.
that's part of it because I didn't realize they do some of that either. So I know people who are trying to spend extra money for supposedly better quality meat, things that aren't tainted, but you really don't know. It's like organic, you buy organic, but is it better? I mean,
Well,
everything's still coming from the skies, so
I thought all the farmers have to have mandatory vaccines for all their animals, and they have quite a few vaccines they have to have. So if an organic cow is getting a vaccine, then now it's not organic. That's this Jennifer Doudna. That's this Rachael. What's her name? Rachael Haurwitz.
or what's that?
Yeah, age 40.
Right.
Rachael Haurwitz. They're in the Frankenstein business. They're in turning human beings into zombie robots, as Sabrina Wallace says, human walking hard drives, human antennas. Now, I call them Frankenstein monsters, senile dementia, mentally disabled people who don't feel anything. They have no feelings, no emotion. There's no moral indignation. They have no courage. They have no courage of convictions. They have no convictions, and they have no courage. They have neither. They neither have courage nor conviction. So they're very much passive people because they know not what they want. They're just easily entertained. So you entertain them, tranquilize them, and they're easy to manage, right? So, yeah, we have a situation here where we've seen this movie before. This is, of course, one of my favorite films of all time, A Man for All Seasons, and as brilliant, great. Here's King Henry VIII. This is, I think, Robert Shaw. He was in Jaws. Later, he got eaten by the shark, right? It's Robert Shaw. And he was brilliant in Jaws, and he was brilliant in A Man for All Seasons. And this film won Best Picture, I believe, that year. And this is Donald Schofield, I believe is his name. Donald Schofield, brilliant British actor. They're both British actors. And so we have David Schofield and Robert Shaw as Sir Thomas More and King Henry VIII. And here, the king is cajoling and visiting Thomas More at his estate because, he is Lord Chancellor. He's a big shot. And Jennifer, just so you know where this estate is, this is in Hyde Park. This is where, like across the street from here, is where Roberto Calfi was kidnapped and taken to his murder, was in this neighborhood, right? And this is where Jimi Hendrix was killed. He was killed at a hotel.
Thomas More wasn't outside of London. He actually was living.
He was in Chelsea.
Oh, Chelsea.
Yeah, he is where Judy Garland was killed.
Yeah, our favorite neighborhood.
So if you really want to go down the list, he got killed, but he didn't get killed here. They moved him to the Tower of London, the Tower Bridge, which is a little bit. I measured the distance from Judy Garland's house to where he was beheaded. It's 3 miles, so it's not far. It's 3 miles. They moved him 3 miles up the river, downstream, and then they put him in the prison for months, and then emaciated him and took his books away. I mean, can you imagine being in solitary confinement, no books to read? They didn't have magazines and newspapers in those days. So, I mean, you read your books and they take your books and then you're just going insane. And he was probably happy to have his head chopped off because it's like, I'm going crazy here, right? So, but he lived where Judy Garland lived. And he lived where Jimi Hendrix was killed. And this is where Cass Elliot was killed. This is the neighborhood where Keith Moon was killed. This is the neighborhood where Peter Sellers had a fatal heart attack. This is where a Playboy waitress, age 22, was killed working at the Playboy Club, which is walking distance from where the scene is. This is where Brian Epstein was found dead in his bed near Hyde Park Corner, near where the scene is. This is in Hyde Park. This is where Vivian Leigh, Scarlett O'Hara, Gone with the Wind, this is where she died, walking distance from the scene. I just find it all, amazing to me that this is a very upscale neighborhood today. It was a very upscale neighborhood in 1534. This is 1534. He's got the job. The king has come to visit his home, and they're going to have a dinner. And then when the king did not get the answer that he wanted from Sir Thomas, he decided, oh my God, the tide is changing. I must leave early. So they prepared this magnificent feast. And then of course, he comes with 24, butlers to carry his luggage. And they all have to tromp through the mud and get back on the river and go away. So all the food went to waste. They had enough food to feed 40 people. And by the time he left, there was only like 6 people left, just the household staff of this mansion. Anyway, that's Sir Thomas More talking with a jovial King Henry VIII, who becomes somewhat frustrated when he sees that they're not aligned on what to do about Anne Boleyn's situation. So let me continue with this. This is before this, we had this gentleman who the king respected a great deal. This is Thomas Wolsey, who is a cardinal with the Vatican in Rome. And every time I push the button, it is rejecting me. Isn't that just crazy? All right, hang on. Where is Wolsey? There's Wolsey. So he's got his chain of office. That's a chain of office. He's a Lord Chancellor and a cardinal. And here, this is Wolsey pleading for Thomas More to help him solve this problem of an heir for the king. And unfortunately, Thomas More declines in terms of pressure the Catholic Church by stealing their property. That's what Wolsey was suggesting. Thomas More would not nationalize the church. Thomas More is the Attorney General, essentially, and Wolsey is the Chancellor of the realm for their ethical society. This ends up eventually, of course, landing Thomas More in front of a maritime military court-martial because he wouldn't take the COVID vax, he wouldn't wear a mask, he wouldn't social distance, and here he is. And of course, they want him to sign the oath, and he said, "No, I can't do that." And they said, "Well, then you're repudiating the king's title." He said, "No, I just don't want to talk about it." And you can't force a person to talk, and you can't force a person to sign an oath, and you don't know what the reason is. They may have a reason, but he doesn't want to share the reason. So they couldn't really do anything with him because in law, silence means consent. So if you want to construe his actions, you have to construe that he consents to the king's title without having to sign a piece of paper. The point is, he's the highest ranking person in the realm at this point. He was the highest ranking person as Lord Chancellor. Wolsey has died, and now he's in charge, and he won't sign, and everyone else has signed. So it's embarrassing. It's humiliating to the king and the realm. And so they decided to suborn perjury of an up-and-coming person who wanted to move up in the chain of command in the obelisk. He lies, he makes up a story, and the court, in a maritime court, just like the Manson trial, just like in the Menendez trial, they admit evidence that's not corroborated, not verified, does not comport to the evidence discovered at the crime scene, and then they all assume that the facts are true and correct when they're most definitely untrue and uncorroborated. So on that basis, he was found guilty of treason, punishable by death, and he was beheaded on July 6th, 1535 on the Tower Hill outside of the Tower of London Castle at the Tower Bridge in North London in the 33rd district of London. London has 33 districts. Thomas More was killed in District 33. It is called the City of London Corporation. It's essentially owned by Switzerland, and this gentleman was killed on a Masonic 13 day by Swiss Bank Authority, wearing Swiss-colored flags by 3 kangaroo court judges who are no different than the judge of the Manson trial, Charles Older, who worked for the Office of Special Services and was a corrupt judge. And the district attorney in that case was Neville Younger. He became Ronald Reagan's attorney general immediately after the prosecution of the Manson family. Neville Younger, who helped suborn perjury in that trial, he was rewarded with the office of Attorney General of the state of California for Ronald Reagan, who was governor and an actor. So I find it eerily similar. So instead of King Henry VIII, today we have Jennifer Doudna. Jennifer, why don't you tell us a little bit about this lady?
I don't feel totally qualified yet. She's a Nobel laureate who is considered the chancellor. She has her own laboratory at Berkeley, UC Berkeley.
Chancellor of Biomedicine.
Yeah, she previously went to Harvard.
Right.
And her husband, her second husband, also has a lab right there at Berkeley.
Yeah, so same building as her.
So they're like mom and pop laboratory predators.
This is her husband, Jamie Kate. And they poach, are you surprised? Just like Fordham University, like Dr. Albert Laverne, he poached Ann Kernan, gave her electroshock treatments at Bellevue State Hospital. And she went over and shot his wife 5 times in the head. Do you know that story?
No.
Albert Laverne, CIA psychiatrist. He also is in charge of the mentally insane at the New York State Bellevue Hospital in East Manhattan. And he taught sociology at Fordham University in the Bronx. And he had a 21-year-old student named Ann Kernan. And he's mentoring her. He's like her academic advisor. Mm-hmm. And then he lures her over to Bellevue, gives her 9 electroshock treatments.
Oh, yeah.
And then she goes over and murders his wife. in
Right.
front of his 3 children in the
Oh,
lobby of their hotel, you know, near where Dorothy Kilgallen lives, that neighborhood, where Ivanka Trump mysteriously died at the bottom of her spiral staircase. That neighborhood, right at Central Park,
Upper East Side.
Upper East Side, on the right across the street from Central Park, across the parks across the street.
That's Fifth Avenue.
Right at Fifth Avenue and yeah, I guess it's Fifth Avenue and like 74th, something like that.
And the Jeffrey Epstein house is at 77th and 5th.
Yeah. It's just kind of like London, right, Jennifer, where you have all really, really nice, expensive neighborhood, and then there's no crime except when the dead rich people get killed, you know? And so we have that situation, Shirley, going on in London and in Upper East Side, Manhattan. Anyway, this is Jamie Cates. He's a department head of chemistry, and more specifically, I have his title. I'll provide links to it. It's molecular engineering, biology, chemistry. So it's not necessarily your mother's chemistry class. They're doing Frankenstein DNA modification here at Cal Berkeley, but they're poaching their students, and then they send the student. This woman here, who is now the CEO of a $1.5 billion company that is called Caribou Biosciences. She's the CEO. She's 40 years old, and she was a doctorate student for Jennifer Doudna at Berkeley at her lab off of Hearst Avenue, you know, near the chancellor's mansion, is where that building is located, where this gal got her PhD. And once she completed her doctorate, they got her a job and funded a company that ballooned into $1.5 billion that is utilizing the CRISPR Therapeutics licensing patent on some of their Frankenstein monster products. And they're specifically using one of the product portfolio items. And this woman who's here, she's had her head chopped off by Zoom. But this is her mentor. This is her academic advisor. This is her academic advisor right here. I push the button and nothing happens. This is Jennifer Doudna right there. There's essentially the 18 years older Jennifer Doudna, who's Mrs. Evil. And this is her mini-me version of herself. And I push the button and there she is. This is mini-me, you know, Dr. Evil and mini-me. This one's in charge of a $1.5 billion company. And the Wicked Witch of the West, she's in charge. I don't know what CRISPR Therapeutics is trading for. You know, probably a billion too. It's in Zug, Switzerland. It's in London, England. It's in Boston, Massachusetts, and Mission Bay, San Francisco. And it's in University of California, Berkeley, off Hearst Avenue at Chestnuts. That's where it is. It's right across the street from, if you're wondering if you've ever heard of the Warren Commission and Earl Warren, he has a building across the street from Jennifer Doudna. It's called the Earl Warren Building. He also has a freeway called number 13, Highway 13, the Warren Freeway. It's also called Tunnel Road and Ashby Avenue. And you should know that this woman's office, Rachael Haurwitz, she's one block off the Warren Freeway. She's one block off Ashby Avenue at the aquatic park, where I think she likes to go running. It's right by her office. So convenient. She doesn't have to drive. She just go. They do rowing. They do crew. Just like at Harvard, they do it. At Harvard, they use the Charles River, and at Berkeley, they have a crew team, and they have an aqua park, and she can run around the park. You know, because like a track. You know, it's like a dirt trail around the crew. I don't know. It must be like a mile on. It's at least a kilometer long on two sides. So it's like a 1.5 mile run she can do and just do laps. So I just wanted to show you that this is Jennifer Doudna. This is the face of Dr. Evil. This is modifying your genetic engineering. And you may not think you're going to participate in this, but you're wrong, because of TerraSwarm, which is again invented by the RAND Corporation, DARPA, University of California, Berkeley, MIT, Smart Dust, Joy Wise, Christopher Pitzer, And they enable Jennifer Doudna's CRISPR product to modify your DNA through all of this smart dust and the electrical energy and the optogenetics light and the sound, ultrasonic energy. All the products used at a hospital are being now rolled outside the hospital. And they're going to call it precision medicine. They're taking the hospital to you. It's kind of like people can't afford to buy gas to go visit the shrines. So you take the shrines on the back of a truck and you take it to the towns, to the people. Well, what they're going to do is take hospital MRI machine, magnetic resonance machine, and the ultrasonic machine and Raytheon missile guidance, and they're going to take it to your house. You don't have to leave your home. They're going to give you, the radiation treatments that you deserve. And they're not even going to tell you you're going to do it. They're just going to do it when you're like having a dinner party. Oh, I got a headache. I don't understand. Well, I must have COVID. Oh, I have COVID. I have COVID. I need a vaccine. But you're getting Havana syndrome, right? What do you say to that, Jennifer? Is that crazy? Wackadoodle?
Well, yeah, it's hard to believe, actually. It's coming, and it's hard to believe. It's all the more reason to understand it. So to make it real, because it's hard to believe.
Okay. Shirley, does this sound like something that Raytheon Missile Guidance would be interested in, trace track and targeting targets?
Well, yeah, I'm learning. I'm learning. It's pretty, like Jennifer said, it's pretty incredible, the technology. But I know a lot of the doctors, a lot of people believe that it's a good thing because it's convenient, and that's what they're sold, is that it's something very convenient and very a good thing, but they don't realize, and a lot of us don't realize how vast it is, and the extent of the lies, that what we're sold one thing is really another. And
Yeah, I mean, yes, your cell phone can make and receive phone calls. It can also deliver a terahertz bullet and blow your brains out. And if you don't have your cell phone with you, guess what? They can do it without the phone. They don't need the phone. And you don't need to be vaccinated either. Now, if you're vaccinated, I don't think they'll have any problem blowing your brain out. It's real easy because you have a strong signal. But for the unvaccinated people, they have a signal with them too. It's just not as strong. It's not really as strong. It's not verified. But they can kill unknown people. It's like, I don't know who this person is, but they're living in a house of a person I don't like. So, just kill them. And we'll find out who they are later. Like we'll read about it in the paper.
Another thing too, if one of the goals is to get us all in these strategic hamlets and 15-minute cities, and they don't really want us driving cars and be in your house and don't go very far, then that makes sense. They'll bring medicine to you, and or they'll just deliver the medicine to you via the computer. I mean, because if you think of like the analogy to us being like cows being herded and encircled by fences, well, yeah, you got to keep everybody closely together.
Right. Well, to help make it real to me, Shirley and Jennifer, what I did was kind of like I put myself back in my paperboy days. Like, where do my customer live? And maybe I should like practice the route, because I did that my first time. I didn't want to screw up. I'd never done. I had substituted. That's not true. I had substituted, so I knew how to deliver papers. But when I was assigned a route, I'd never been in that neighborhood in my life ever. So I asked my mom to drive me, and it's 2 miles up a really steep hill. So I didn't really feel, it was the end of the day and the sun was going down. I said, Mom, you just drive me up, just drop me off, and then come back and get me in a half hour. I'm just going to walk my route. But I didn't have any papers, and I wasn't going to start till tomorrow. But I wanted to just see what it looked like, when the sun was up, and because I never been on Pinehurst Drive before. So I went, okay, because I had a list of all the customers I'm going to deliver the paper to. And I went, okay, so that's where that house is. And it's good that I did this, Jennifer, because there were 40 papers to deliver, and 3 of the houses I couldn't find the house. Like, where is it? So what I would do is I would go past where I'm supposed to go. And then I went, well, no, I've gone too far. The address is too high, right? This is how I was getting really oriented toward addresses and the like, are the odd numbers on one side of the street and the even numbers are on the opposite side. That was how it was set up. Do you know down there in Beverly Hills, they have exceptions to that? They have odd and even numbers on both sides. I mean, from a paperback point of view, that's really confusing. But they're doing it on purpose. They're doing it on purpose. They don't want you to know what the address was. Or you're like, oh, I must have made a mistake. It's on the wrong side of the street. No, you didn't make a mistake. They're trying to trick you. And so on this paper route, it was organized correctly. The odd numbers were on one side and the even numbers were on the other. That was true. And I couldn't find a number. I went past it. So then I went, well, it must be between these two numbers that I can see. And it was because the people they had a big hedgerow and they didn't have a landscaper and they hadn't really taken. So I had like manually go through the hedgerow and then there's the number. And oh, this is it. And had a big gate and everything. And so then I went, do I throw it over the gate? There was a dog, beware of dog. And I went, oh, because if I throw it there, rah, rah, I could tear up the paper. So I didn't know, should I put it at the gate or should I? So I ended up stuffing it. When I delivered it, I stuffed it in the edge where the dog couldn't get it, but the owner could see, oh, there's my paper. It's in the crack, where the hinges are. So that's what I did. But I would never have known to do that if I didn't do it in the daytime when the sun was up. And then there were two other houses that were really challenging, but I figured it out. And when I did the route for real in darkness, it went pretty smooth. Because see, I'm so professional. But that was when I was a little kid. I was like 11 years old, I think, when I got that route. So I see how I wanted to rehearse it before I did it, because I probably would have screwed up at least 2 or 3 times and got a complaint. But this was perfect.
That's very impressive, Jux. I'm really impressed. I mean, I get Amazon deliveries for packages that just belong to the guy next door. And sometimes they come back and do it, or sometimes I just take it over to my neighbor. But I mean, how hard is that the numbers of the house are very prominent. You can see it's this and then that, and they mess up. So
they do. And so if you're going to look at a murder detective investigation, Star Chamber stuff, you really need this hone in on where do they put the addresses of the homes, because they do. It's not like a planned unit development where everything's the same. Most of the neighborhoods I'm familiar with, the homes were built 5 to 10 years apart, so they're not the same architecture. The addresses are put in a different place. Some have lighting, some do not. So you can't see them at night. Some you can see at night. So this helps for investigating murders. And so in this case, with this woman here, the way I found this woman is I didn't know she was associated with Jennifer Doudna. What I knew was Jennifer Doudna is associated with Dust Networks and Smart Dust and Joy Weiss and Christopher Visser, because they work within one block of each other at Cal Berkeley. They're in different buildings, but they are both doing different parts of the same program, which is TerraSwarm. They're both doing TerraSwarm. One is called CRISPR Therapeutics, DNA gene editing. They call it gene editing. I call it Frankenstein monster. The other is doing TerraSwarm mesogens, MIMS and MIMOs, micro mechanical maximum input, maximum output transponders, receive and send responders, nano, aluminum, lithium, I said lithium, strontium, titanium, magnesium, and plastic, polymers. Okay, so I knew all that. I knew Smart Dust was a company. I knew the RAND Corporation helped create it. RAND Corporation helped create CRISPR too. And they both work for DARPA. So Jennifer Doudna works for DARPA, and so too does Joy Weiss and Christopher Pfister on the dust side, the TerraSwarm side. So I looked and I scanned the Bay Area, and I found on Industrial Parkway Boulevard in Hayward, near the San Mateo Bridge, half a block, there's a railroad track. On the other side of the railroad track, not on Industrial Parkway, but if you go, you have to go to Industrial Parkway to get there. Then just on a side road, you find called Huntwood Avenue. You go to Huntwood Avenue, pull into the first driveway off of Industrial Parkway, and just park your car. You don't even have to go in the driveway. Just park on the street, park. And in that 2-block area, and mostly on 1-block area, you're going to find Coast Aluminum, which makes aluminum chalk and can load the chalk onto railroad cars because the railroad track is right there. And it can also has half a dozen garage bays that they can load trucks that back up to the plant, and they can load aluminum chalk or whatever they put in there, plastics and titanium and magnesium recipes. They can load trucks, and the trucks can go on the freeway and take it to deliver to an airport, to be put onto a plane, to be dumped over your home or neighborhood as part of the chemtrail program, which Rand Paul has never heard of a chemtrail. And he's a United States Senator from Tennessee and never heard of chemtrails. Like 3 weeks ago, never heard of it. Okay, so he's a criminal. So Dust Networks had an office there. It's been closed. I did a video on it, and they closed it within a month of doing that video. It was a small office. It's not necessary, but they had an office there. Across the parking lot from Dust Networks is Coast Aluminum. And then on the other side of the parking lot is Dinovax Technology, which makes the COVID vaccine. And I just was wondering, why are you next to an aluminum company if you make COVID vaccines, unless you need aluminum to make the vaccine? And yeah, they put aluminum in the flu vaccine. So I'm assuming they put aluminum in the COVID vaccine too. They seem to put aluminum because it's radio frequency. They put it in cellular phones. They put it in your micro laptop computer too, right? And if they want to do like Sabrina Wallace says, turn human beings into laptop computers and walking antennas and walking hard drives, you're going to need some aluminum in your body, right? And I got Coast Aluminum right there. By the way, Coast Aluminum has 14 other locations throughout the greater Western United States, from Phoenix to Boise, Idaho, to Reno, Nevada, Sparks, Nevada, to Seattle, Washington. They're all over the West Coast selling aluminum chalk. And I'm believing that Dust Networks is coordinating those purchases. And across the street, it's the same neighborhood, but from where you park your car, on the other side of your car, is American Polyfoam. So I looked at their website. They make micro and nano plastic dust. And it's across the street from Coastal Aluminum. How hard would it be to take, a couple of garbage bins of plastic, walk it about 200 feet across the street, and deliver it to Coastal Aluminum, have them pour that into the aluminum and stir it in, and then load it onto a truck, take it to an airport, dump that. Now they're dumping plastic, titanium, magnesium, aluminum, arsenic poison, because what goes with a laptop computer? Arsenic poison goes with the aluminum and the lithium. And if you add plutonium, you'd have an atom bomb too. You'd have an atom bomb. So you could almost blow people up, smithereens, if you add plutonium. Then you'd have an atom bomb. But minus the plutonium, doesn't a psychiatrist prescribe lithium to bipolar people? And that is now confirmed. I know that's in the recipe. They wouldn't have a company that's, dumping lithium and aluminum next to a COVID vax manufacturer, Dinovax. All right, so then I go and Google Dinovax. Now it's tricky because it's spelled Dynavax, Dynavax. It's called Dynavax Technologies. It's traded on the stock market. But in Hayward, it's misspelled. It's on purpose. It's spelled Dinovax, Dinavax Technology. Dynavax Technology with an I, not a Y. And I go, well, maybe it's a different company. No, it's the same company. But they misspelled the name on purpose so that you would think it's a different company. It's not. And I busted them because guess what? I checked the address on the misspelled Dinovax in Hayward, and it's at 29297 Berkeley Road. 29297 Berkeley Road. But it's not in Berkeley. It's not in the city of Berkeley. It's in the city of Hayward. And it's 29297 Berkeley Road in Hayward. All right. So then I go to the website of the Dynavax, which is located in Emeryville, where Chiron is, which Novartis owns that. Novartis owns Chiron and Cetus, and they're in Emeryville. Next door to Novartis is Dinovax. They're in the same neighborhood as Novartis is. And then they say they have 3 locations: Dusseldorf, Germany, Emeryville, which is Novartis, and then Berkeley. And I went, Berkeley, where at? The Earl Warren Freeway 13. They're right off Highway 13 on Ashby Avenue. But the address is 2929 7th Street. 2929 space 7th Street, Berkeley. But it's right on the edge of the demarcation line of Ashby Avenue. Ashby Avenue, Warren Freeway, Earl Warren, the Warren Commission, he separates Emeryville. That road, Ashby Avenue, separates Emeryville from the city of Berkeley. That's the demarcation line, is Highway 13, Unity Amongst Masons. That line, on this side, we have this woman, Rachael Haurwitz. She's in Berkeley. She's at 2929 7th Street, Suite 105. Well, what's in Suite 100? Dinovax Technology is on her same floor. She works with them. Okay. And they're in the COVID vaccine business. She's working with a COVID vaccine maker. She's using CRISPR DNA engineering designed with Jennifer Doudna's technology in Zug, Switzerland. Who is the number one customer of CRISPR Therapeutics that pays them money every month? Novartis, their number one customer in Basel, Switzerland. So we have a Swiss banking operation using a Swiss pharmaceutical company that is running CRISPR Therapeutics, incubated and created this woman here who's age 40, made her the CEO of a subsidiary entity called Caribou Biosciences, which is now worth $1,500,000,000. Her paycheck in 2024, she gets $850,000 cash, and she got $3.5 million in stock. She made $4.3 million in 2024. She's 40 years old. She makes $4 to $5 million a year. Designing Frankenstein monster DNA. She calls it exciting gene editing. We'll give you a link to a YouTube video. She looks like she's a mental case. I bring in Ted Kaczynski and somebody who needs to, fix her flower pot. Because she's lost her mind. She has completely lost her way in humanity. She's lost her way. So what do you think about this, Shirley, that I found Coast Aluminum, Dust Networks, Dinovax, COVID Technologies, American Polyfoam, Microplastics, off Industrial Parkway in Hayward, California, with a lot of screwy addresses which comport to the city of Berkeley, and this woman, and that woman can be traced to CRISPR because she's using CRISPR technology in her business, which she's the CEO. She's using their technology, and she got her PhD from Jennifer Doudna from University of California, Berkeley. And she knows the husband, Jamie Kate. She knows him because he's in the lab next door to her. And now she's working 3 miles away, by the Aquatic Center near Emeryville. And Novartis and the RAND Corporation and DARPA, those are the major players behind these women. What do you say, Shirley?
I think it's amazing how you traced everything back, even with misspelling the name. You thought, that had to be a different company. It couldn't be the same.
And I went, no, it's the same because the address is the same. I mean, they didn't misspell it by one letter and have the same address too. I mean, why don't you change the address, dummy? Then you might lose. But when you keep, it's 5 digits. Look, I went into Grand Cayman accounting for Bank of America because I got through a 5-digit cipher code key panel. So you don't mess with juxtaposition with 5 numbers. I'm going to get you. I'm going to get you every time. Don't use the same secret. Like, do you have the secret files? Hey, do you have the secret code? These people are laughing at you. They think that you can't find out where they are. I agree. It is sneaky what they do. It's sneaky, but I figured it out.
That's really good. The thing is, when you look at her, she's 40 years old and she makes that much money, and something's off there. Something's very off as far as that.
Well, she's out running around in aluminum chalk that Joy Weiss is dumping on her. So she's not going to be here for long. I'd say she's NFL like the Super Bowl, not for long. That's what NFL means. And I don't think she's going to see 80 years old because she may buy into the life extension. But when you're out running for hours and you need to run for hours, you're going to train for a marathon, you're going to be a CEO of a $1.5 billion company, and you're running around with polluted air that's made out of aluminum and lithium and titanium and arsenic. You ain't going to make 40 years.
That's the sales job, though, isn't it? To live forever, or not forever, but to life extension and
Right.
all this different, really crazy sounding technology.
Well, that's all I have tonight to present to you. But Jennifer, why don't you, do you have anything specific that you want to take the show to, or?
Well, I just want to have a postscript about this woman and what she's doing. They must have a website. Okay.
They do, for the company.
Yeah. And I'd like, when on the section where it usually says about, like, what are we about? I mean,
yeah,
I'm going to check that out because
check it. I've got to post a link to it. I have it. It's on my computer. It's a publicly traded company. It's on Wall Street. It's on the NASDAQ.
I'd like to, I guess she says they're going to cure cancer or something.
Right. Well, that's what she says in her little interviews, right? She's so excited about it. But she won't augment embryos of women. She said that would be unethical. But then I guess augmenting your brain, that's okay. I don't understand the ethics.
Well, yeah. And I'm trying to understand how all this might be connected to vaccines. And frankly, I can't, I'm not going to be able to get my mind totally around this stuff in piecemeal pieces of information. I'm just going to have to hunker down and study it to really and I feel I have to. I feel like I don't think I have a choice.
Well, I've got some great names for everyone listening. If you do write these names down, I mean, start with the smart dust. That's going to be Christopher Pister. And you should start with his father, just like I did with Sharon Tate. In order to understand Sharon Tate, you need to understand that her father's United States colonel in the Army intelligence. His name was Paul Tate. And then you need to know her mother, Doris, pimped her out on beauty pageants when she was 6 months old. That's the only way you could possibly understand Sharon Tate. You would never understand her unless you understood her parents. You would never understand how Christopher Pister could be involved with Smart Dust unless you look at his father, who was a chancellor of University of California Systems, 9 campuses throughout the state. And he is also a member, Jennifer, of Jason. Jason is a secret society of electrical engineers and chemistry people all around the world. Jason. It's a secret society. You can't just join. You have to be invited in. And he is a member of Jason. So you need to Google Jason. It's an acronym. It has a meaning, and I don't know what it is. Jason, spelled like it sounds, Jason. He's a member of Jason. So Google Jason, Google Christopher Pister, Google his father, who was a chancellor of UC Berkeley, of UC Systems. And then you have to find out his cohort who went to MIT and got a master's degree also, just like Samuel Bankman Fried did. He went there for undergrad and master's. So too did Joy Weiss. You gotta find, where is Joy Weiss? She's in multiple companies. She moves around, but she was CEO of Dust Networks for at least a decade. And then the RAND Corporation, because they're involved with those two. The Corey Hall building, which we already know, it's now called Terra Swarm, but it reads Corey Hall. And then Jennifer Doudna, and Jennifer's partner in Paris, Emmanuelle Carpentry. You need to look at her. She's in Paris. She's partners with Jennifer and at a university in Paris. And they're both founders of the Zug operation in Switzerland, and they must have offices there too, and private jets to take them here to there. And then you look at her husband, Jimmy Cate, C-A-T-E. You need to look at him, and he has department head status at Berkeley, and he is poaching students that he's putting into these PhD programs, promising them a degree and a job at this Caribou Bioscience 3 miles away. go work over
Yeah.
there with Rachael Haurwitz, who was
Mhm.
a former student of ours. Go over there. So it's like a poaching, or we call it recruiting, in-house recruiting. And this is going to link the following: Massachusetts Institute of Technology, and we have the
Mhm.
recent murder of a professor there. And
Mhm.
we have Harvard University, where these women went to school. Jennifer Doudna went to Harvard. So too did Rachael Haurwitz. She went to Harvard. Then she came to Berkeley. So did Jennifer Doudna. Then they worked together off of Hearst Avenue, Phoebe Hearst Avenue in Berkeley, across from the Earl Warren building. The Earl Warren building, that's where they work in a lab with Jamie Cates. So that links Jamie Cates, Jennifer Doudna, and this lady here, Rachael Haurwitz. You look at their TED Talks, they have TED Talks. In the
Mhm.
case of Jennifer Doudna, I believe she has spoken at World Economic Forum in Davos. Wouldn't be
Mhm.
hard for her to do. Her office is only 18 miles away in Zug. And so that's home to cryptocurrency, home to central bank digital currency, that's home to gene editing. You're going to put those together so that your money will be in your bone marrow and your real ID verified, and that your whole bank account will be in your body. And you don't carry your cell phone around. You don't have to carry a wallet. You don't need credit cards, palm print, eyeball recognition. Your whole world is baked into your bone marrow. That's what these Frankenstein monsters are doing, is redefining banking. But Switzerland is the one who decides what banking is, not this woman. But you see what get tied together. You cut it UC Berkeley, Department of Energy, Rand Corporation, DARPA, Harvard, MIT, the University of California chancellors, with Frankenstein, smart dust, TerraSwarm, molecular engineering, which is known as human augmentation. And it's a small little group of people with some mega money, billions of dollars.
Well, but the good news here is we have people with a face and a name here. We don't know. I don't know who's in Switzerland calling the shots and determining
No, and
everything.
we're not going to. They're not going to
No,
be
but at
out and
least
out.
now we've got somebody to look at who we
Yeah,
can.
these are lower down the food chain, but they're available, and they're, look, she makes 4.5 million a year. She must be kind of important.
Yeah. So, but there's sort of a window into what lies behind or what lies ahead. I don't know, or both, right? So, it's I don't
It's a
know
good
who's spraying the
place.
stuff above my skies, right? I don't know who to call, right? But I
Well,
can
not your
start to
sheriff, not your police. They're
no,
laughing.
but I can start to look at these people and they've got websites, they've got business plans, they've got employees. I mean, I can start to at
Yeah,
least
well, they
evaluate
do and
it.
they don't, because if you
Oh,
do read their their there's the oath of secrecy agreements. I've posted some of them on today's
mhm.
video also. It's very ambiguous. It's written in pig Latin. It you have no idea what their business plan. And look, they don't want you to know what they're doing. I, using my intuition and my own personal supposition to tell you what they're, if you ask them in person, they'll tell you they're going to cure cancer. And that we have spent trillions of dollars. I mean, this Smart Dust program is like $100 trillion in 3 years. It's like 30 trillion a year. They are not going to spend no 30 trillion a year to cure cancer. If anything, that'll put the chemotherapy pharmaceutical business out of business. They're not interested in curing cancer. They want to get more cancer.
Yeah,
And they
yeah.
don't want people to live long. They want them to live less. But they want to milk them like a cow. And if that means selling them a boatload of drugs before they die, that's even better. I mean, they want 80 vaccines for children under 18 years old. That's barbaric. Who came up with that?
Yeah, they want to vaccine newborn infants too. I mean,
There's nothing wrong with the child. Leave it alone.
I know.
And so this schedule, there's a schedule of vaccines that goes in the circular, file cabinet immediately and burned with, dump some kerosene in and light a fire, build a campground around all of these idiotic ideas. All right. So, any final thoughts, Shirley? And we'll give Jennifer more chance to wrap up, and then we'll say goodnight.
I think that was really good. It was a good overview of everything. And a reminder of where we're at, and history repeats itself, I guess.
Yeah,
You
history
gave the
repeats.
example, yeah, constantly. So hopefully we can somehow change the cycle and not make it this circle.
Yeah, well, I do think like with I want to kind of anybody associated with politics or running for governor or that is a colossal waste of time. Okay, you do know that there's no politician that has no authority, and especially not of a military complex state like Colorado or California or Washington or all 50 states are military states. So that means every governor will be muzzled. They're never going to talk about smart. It's going to be just like Senator Rand Paul, clueless, like Bernie Sanders, clueless. Arnold Schwarzenegger, Jesse Ventura, Greg Abbott, Ron DeSantis, clueless about what this woman who's making 4.5 million. None of those people, I don't think they make as much money as she does. And they're not going to ever mention what she does because they're just either don't know what she does or they're told specifically that's a violation of national security. And since we have no nation, you're talking about a violation of NATO and United Nations. We have that. The airplanes that are dumping, they belong to Switzerland. They belong to NATO. So anyone who rats out Switzerland is violating a code of silence, an America code, which they call the National Security Act. It was signed in America in 1917. And the only one senator objected. He was from a governor of Colorado, objected to it in 1917. He said it would come back to haunt us. Well, it has.
I've read that, but it's just so ambiguous. It's just it doesn't mean anything really. It just means that
Well,
they can do whatever they want, and you can't say anything about it.
right.
It
Well,
just
when you say it's ambiguous, here is why it's ambiguous, Shirley, because you're right, it is ambiguous. And if you were Sir Thomas More, for his kangaroo court trial, I push the button and then it's not responding. We're back in a maritime law court with Sir Thomas More, and they are trying to introduce perjured testimony to find you guilty of treason. I find this, really dishonest. You see this, what I'm saying right here, all of this idea of the Pope, the king needs an heir, and we need to break the rules and find an ethical way to break the rules. And Sir Thomas More says there is no ethical way to cheat. You can only be unethical. And then they say, okay, well, off with your head. Well, that's the policy on COVID. That's the policy on all mandates. Mandates are an ultimatum. They're a command. There's my way or the highway. That's the Godfather asking you for a favor, which is a command. Because if you deny the Godfather a favor, you will never ask for a favor again. And you may find the front window of your house destroyed, your car burned, and or your house burned down when you deny the Godfather a favor. Well, that's fascism. That's using fear and intimidation to bully people into following their orders. And they have these rules to say that they have these rules, Shirley, but the rules are ambiguous and they're nonsensical. And in the end, in a kangaroo court, the judge, like Judge Older, they do whatever they want. Or Sydney, I can't remember the judge for the Jose Menendez case. He's the same judge that did the McMartin preschool molestation case in Manhattan Beach, and he did the Rodney King beating case. They had the same judge, Sidney Weisberg, and he got the results completely wrong in 3 out of 3. And there weren't 3 trials; there were 6 trials because he had 3 mistrials, 3 mistrials on 3. He had 6 total. And he got them all wrong. And that's like deliberate on purpose, right? And he was really young.
he's
He was like first year
consistent.
judge when he got the McMartin case. That was one of his first cases. Wouldn't you think you start him out like on a automobile theft case? Why run him into a really complicated child molestation case? And there may be tunnels. But I mean, and that case went on for like 2 years, and it took 4 years to go through the second trial and another mistrial. And then no one was convicted. Not a single person was convicted after 3.5 years. No conviction. And then let's give him Rodney King. Oh, and then let's give him Jose Menendez and the Menendez boys. Like, why? He can't do his job. Remember, the worst thing you can do is get a hung jury. That's the worst thing. I mean, even an acquittal is okay, an acquittal or a guilty, but not we spent a year and we can't agree and we have to do the whole thing over again. You've wasted everybody's time for 9 to 10 months. I mean, it's been at least a year because the preparation time before the trial. I mean, you've wasted over a year and you have nothing to show. There's no justice whatsoever. So that they continue
point,
to promote
though, right?
that judge.
That's the point, to keep everybody going. Everybody's
Yeah.
talking about it, not looking
That's
at
OJ
anything
case.
else.
That's the OJ case, right? I mean, it was just a show. All right. So any final comments, Shirley?
Just one more thing
Yes.
about the Espionage Act. Okay, so as long as you're in war, right, you can pretty much do whatever you want. Now
Right. Absolutely.
we are still in that state, though, aren't we?
Emergency
So
status because of the COVID.
okay, that's what I
So
thought.
they can, in other words, they can move into your home and say you need to get your stuff
Okay,
out.
what were you saying that
They
was
can
called again?
commandeer your house and your car.
I know somebody they said their parents had that in Poland. It's just people just
Yeah, they
come
can do
on,
that in the
move.
United States too. They can commandeer your home and your car for military purposes. That's what the Germans did to the French. They moved into these, chateaus in the vineyards, and then they said, well, you can stay in the guest house if you'll bring the wine to us, because we know you have a cellar. And the French were trying to hide, their vintage wines. So they had like a wall with the separated, what you show the Nazis and then what's behind the secret wall. And the Germans like, I don't care. I just need some Burgundy. So just get me a bottle. And you don't, it's like, who do I invoice for this? I don't know. Somebody in Berlin or something. You can send a bill in. I don't know if I'll get paid. But they can take your house. So of course they can send you to a FEMA camp or they can send you to a Donald Trump Freedom City. So that's what they can do if there's no such thing as whistleblowing. I want to make that clear. There's no such thing as a governor of a state anymore. There's no such thing. The governors are totally under control and they can't tell what's going on because they'll get in trouble with this Espionage Act or violating NATO. Also, since the Civil War, they've added another codicil to the will. It says that you, as a governor, promise you won't secede from the nation, because we had that 4-year war between the states where it killed 600,000 Americans that all spoke English, and we had, to put the union back together again. So no more of that. So if you're going to be the governor of Alabama, we're not seceding, right? Right? We're not going to do that, right? So you're handcuffing because this idea that we're a union and that we come together voluntarily because we believe in togetherness, that's ridiculous. It's forced.
Yeah.
It's law. You have to swear an oath that you won't revolt. So that's Thomas More. Will you sign the oath? He said no. Okay. Off with his head. That's military martial law. That's what this guy is. He's a military tribunal judge. That guy right there. We follow orders or people die. It's just that simple.
It went into all the stuff about freedom of speech or the Constitution, and
Right. There's no constitution under maritime law, right? Because you would just steamroll all the constitutional rights are null and void.
Yeah.
Because there can't be if someone comes over with a gun and wants to take your house, what's the due process? You could say, oh, we need to have a hearing about this. Get out now or I'll shoot you. No due process. Well, you need to get the vaccine. Well, I want to think about it. Do it now. No due process. No informed consent. There's no informed consent under a Medicare military social health care program. Nobody, the doctors don't even know what's in these vaccines. How the hell can you consent to something your doctor doesn't even know what it is? It's a military bioweapon, you dummy. But hey, I get paid to sell it, to recommend it. Okay, well, then you're a drug dealer. You're selling bioweapons drugs. You're a weapons commission salesman, is what your doctor is. All right, final comments from Jennifer, and then we will wrap this baby up under the maritime law moniker.
Well, just briefly, when you learn how to touch type, one of the sentences you practice on is the sentence, "Now is the time for all good men to come to the aid of their country." I don't know if that's familiar with you guys, but
yes, it is. And I typed that before.
And you did type that before?
Yeah, and I took a typing class in high school.
Oh, I thought maybe it was on a link and I missed it. Okay. Yes. So I thought in terms of linking the show with Thomas More, I mean, he was a good man. And that's what we have to appeal to now in our culture and society is now is the time for all good men to come to the aid of their congregate, no, their country. Now is the time for all good men to come to their conscience and try to rise up against what's happening, because otherwise we're just sitting ducks. No.
I'll just end on my favorite line of Paul Scofield in when he was being browbeaten by Thomas Cromwell and the religious leaders in a private conference room in the Tower of London. He was brought to them, the three men who really wanted to get him to sign the oath so that we didn't have to have a trial. They really were giving him, they get a first, second, third, fourth chance. He got a lot of chances. And so they said, well, just sign the oath for fellowship. And he goes, so when we die and you go to heaven for following your conscience and I go to hell for not following mine because I signed and I don't agree, will you join me in hell for fellowship?
That was a great line. That was a great
and
line.
then the religious leader said, so, Sir Thomas, are you saying that those of us whose names are on this document are doomed to hell? And Sir Thomas responded adroitly, I have no window to look through to a man's conscience. I condemn no one. I do not know. And I think that's the answer to the question, very direct answer, is that, you can't force a person's conscience to do what they believe is wrong, unless you're a coward, really. So sure, Thomas More showed he's not a coward. No, they chopped his head off. But here's the lesson of COVID and Real ID. What did they do with Thomas Cromwell, who made beheading possible? They chopped his head off also. So the person who complied with the Real ID and the COVID, he got whacked and murdered. The same as the guy who said, I'm not doing it. So what I'm saying is you end up in the same position. Why not just go out on your terms? Because the person who's telling you it'll be okay, they're going to end up in a cremation oven. Don't take advice from them. They're wrong. And they're just trying to bully you. And they're cowards. They're cowards. And never take advice from a coward. All right. That's what I say. That's what I say. All right. Thanks, ladies. Thanks for being here. And
Thank you.
The Star Chamber thanks you. And we'll see you in the lobby for the beluga caviar. Okay. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
All right.